Hello my friends. This is an image of a drum. It belonged to Sitting Bull in the 1860s. So as you can see, not all drums are round. And here I have some other shaped drums, hexagon, octagon, and I'm going to show you how to cut these frames. To make a simple hexagon hoop for a hand drum, hexagon having 6 sides, what you need to do is determine the angle, and the way you do that is you take the number of sides that you want your drum to be, and in this case 6 sides, divide that into 360 and then cut that in half, so that will give you a 30-degree cut. So I have my saw set to 30 degrees, and we're going to cut 6 parts from this standard stock that comes from Lowe's. Make your first cut. I have my stop set, and using the stop, every part will be exactly the same length. And I made one extra, so it looks like this one will be rejected. When you glue up the drum hoop, you want to dry fit the pieces, and I'm using a strap clamp, and you can see here the pressure points are going to be on the flats, and I have it clipped. You see how I clipped here in the loop. Rather than hooking the metal clamp to each other, which would give you an awkward position, this will lay flat. Okay, this is ready to glue and get strapped. Now the gluing end grain is very weak joints, so it'll be strong enough when the leather is around it, or the rawhide is around it. It will cause a compression, and it should hold it together. The glue that I use, I prefer this one, the Type 3. I just have real good luck with this glue. It costs about twice of most of the other glues, even some of the good quality. Now I'm going to apply the glue to both surfaces, and brush it into the pores. Like I was saying before, was end gluing is a very weak joint. Type 3 is a waterproof glue. It's good to use outdoors. It's also one of the glues that if you're gluing veneer, you can put this on both surfaces and use an iron, like you iron clothing with, and the heat will reactivate the glue and cause it to stick to itself. So it makes a real good method for attaching veneer. Okay, the glue has been applied to all the surfaces and brushed into the pores. So now we'll just set them together and apply the clamping pressure. Okay, we want the strap in the center. This is where a second set of hands would come in handy. Checking the joints, everything seems good. We'll leave it cure now. Here's an octagon at 22.5 degrees, 5 inches long. This will give you a 12-inch drum head. Here's an octagon, 6.5-inch length on each side. That's given you almost 14 3/4 inch flat to flat, and approximately 16-inch corner to corner. And the depth of these are 2.5 inches. In order to compensate for the weak joints from edge gluing, I'm going to glue in splines. So I made a jig for the table saw, and that jig will cradle this piece. I'll make 2 passes, one like that, turn it around and make a second pass, and then that will allow me to glue cross grain into those splines. So let me show you how the cut's made. Here's the jig for cutting the splines, and you saw how I was using it. This saddles across the fence, and the depth is cut. I marked a line here where I have the screws coming into this, so I know not to go any deeper than this line, and it's fitted so that the corners come down and just about touch the table. And this is at the angle, whether it's going to be hexagon or octagon. The angle will be adjusted for that. So it's a real quick, easy jig. I cut these splines out of cherry. These will darken with age, and I cut them to be the width of the kerf. And all we have to do is glue those in. Make sure when you glue these that both corners come all the way down, or you're going to have a very obvious hole, gap in there. Right like that. When I cut these on the table saw, you see the little ridge. I had the saw set so that the piece that I was cutting would not separate off of the board. And if it separates, what can happen is this thin piece can get drawn down into the table, and that could make it a little dangerous. So by leaving it attached, there's not a chance that it'll get pulled down, and then you just snap it off. And I take a hand plane and hit the stock piece so that there's no ridge, and make a second cut then. So I'll do this to every one. After it dries, we'll cut them off and then sand the outside perimeter smooth. If you knock any of the joints loose, which I did, you need to put it under pressure again. So I cut these blocks, put across the splines and put clamping pressure back on it. When this dries, it'll be a really tough frame. After the splines have dried, after the glue set up, I'm going to cut these off. I'm going to stay away from the edge. These need to be sanded. So this is a lot of sanding, so we pre-cut most of the bulk away. That's close enough, then the rest will be sanded. Here I'm holding the rawhide down in between the lacing so that it'll dry flat. A better way of doing this is to use an ace bandage and wrap around it. Ace bandage. Drying overnight with the ace bandage on, it held all the edges down, so that's finished the drum. It can be painted or it's finished. Thanks for watching, my friends. Bye-bye.